Hello everyone and welcome back to the Silicon Nubian YouTube channel. Today we're going to kick the tires of a Linux distribution which I've used in the past and is based on a few other distributions which I've also liked. Today we're going to take a look at MX Linux version 16. MX Linux is a Debian-based Linux distribution which grew out of cooperation between former Antix and Mepis Linux communities. It's these days one of the Linux distributions that still come in 32 and 64-bit variants, which is becoming a rarity as most Linux distributions are now moving to 64-bit only. Also, MX Linux is based on Debian's stable branch, which should assure us of a very stable and reliable operation. Claim to fame of MX Linux is a lightweight desktop which doesn't get in the way of the user, which offers the user just the right mix of applications to be productive right out of the box. One thing about it that's fantastic is the repurposing of older hardware, something which is dear to my heart. Is you have that old Pentium 4 in the closet or that old Core 2 Duo. Well, this might be the distribution for you. So let's log in and start to kick the tires a bit. We are greeted with a custom XFCE desktop. Immediately we see that we have updates that are available. It says 41 new updates are available. So one of the great features is that it does have an update manager which will tell you when the updates are available, so you don't have to guess about that. Software updater notifications, very unobtrusive. We'll stop that for now. MX ships with a fairly standard set of popular open source applications. For example, we can see that Firefox web browser is present. We are running here in a virtual machine, so performance that I've seen on real hardware is actually very impressive. Throw an SSD into the mix and it's quite fast. We can see that this is the first startup of Firefox, where we have the Firefox page and we have the MX Linux page. And as we can see, performance is quite good. Rendering is perfect. Also, I have to inform you that the Firefox that ships with MX Linux has Flash enabled. So for those of us who still are holding on to Flash, this shouldn't be a problem. So let's poke around the desktop a bit and see why this might be something that I could recommend for those people who are looking for a new Linux distribution. Clicking on the time brings up the calendar, and here we have a list of running processes, so we'll get rid of that, get it back at any time we want. Close it. Right-clicking on the desktop brings us pretty much the usual selections and options we have. Create the launcher, create a document, create a folder, run, ownership to root. This is interesting. This is not always present in many Linux distributions, where we can change ownership right here. Create symlink, find files here, arrange desktop icons, properties. Here we have an application menu. So there's two places where we can find the application menu. Right-clicking on the desktop will give us one area where we can. And we're going to go through the application menu in a bit. Here we have basic desktop properties, desktop settings, where we can change, and as you can see, things are done in real time. Well, that's a very nice one. And there's a pretty small but quality set of backdrops and wallpapers that you can choose from. Solid colors, of course, stretch, tiled. Everything's here that you would expect in a modern day desktop distribution. As you can see, almost immediately the performance is quite snappy, and this is very encouraging. So we have our file manager, Thunar. The version I have ships with Thunar 1.6.10. Of course, that might be updated at any time. Thunar is very well known. I'm not going to go too much into it. It's very well known in the Linux world, one of the better file managers out there. Here we have Clipman that's included. Clipboard is empty. We have our Ethernet connection. And of course, we can manage our VPN connections from here. Disconnect. And we have the ETH0, which is our first network card. We have the calendar, of course. Sound. Here we have the mixer. We can right click and open the mixer. This is one way to get at it. It looks pretty feature complete. Input devices. Here we have, you can see I'm talking and you can see that the microphone is registering. Okay. And here we have unmount, which I'm not going to do right now. And here we have the battery indicator. Here we have what would in the Windows world would be akin to the start menu. And we go in and we see our user. We have the favorites over here. Run program, LibreOffice. Very good to see that LibreOffice is included. And from my understanding, it's the full suite. MX Tools, we'll get into that a little later. And the terminal emulator, which is very colorful. For one, and just to show you that it does work. So we go into different things, recently used, of course, applications, all applications, and under accessories we have Archive Manager, Catfish Search, Calculator, of course. As you can tell, performance is very snappy, very snappy. LeafPad, Lucky Backup, very good to have this actually. A nice tool for backing up your home folders and other things, of course, synchronizing and whatnot. MX App Notifier. This is the update notifier that we have here. Okay. Sensor Viewer, Task Manager. Task Manager will show us CPU usage, memory usage, and the PIDs and whatnot. Very good. Midnight Commander. This is something I install on most Linux systems that I use for myself. It's really old school. It goes all the way back to, it's an ode to Norton Commander, for those of us who can remember that from the DOS days. And I just find this very useful. Good to see that it's already included by default. And what I'm showing you is the default installation. File Manager and Vim Edit Text Files. When we move further, we have Education, LibreOffice Math, Games, Chromium, LBreakout 2, and PEG-E. I'm not a big fan of these little mindless games, and I'm happy that they're there for some people, but I'll probably never use them. I'm just happy that there's not a big selection of them, that they filled out the ISO with stuff I wouldn't use anyways. Graphics, we have GIMP, which is great, LibreOffice Draw, Image Viewers, Scan, and Photo Organizer, Shotwell, which is well known. Internet, we have Firefox, GNOME PPP, Dial-Up Tool. I don't know anybody who uses dial-up anymore, but your mileage may vary. HexChat, of course, Thunderbird Mail, which is great, which I use on the Windows platform and my Linux boxes, and Transmission, which is a BitTorrent downloader, one of the best ones out there, in my opinion. Multimedia, CD Ripper, Clementine is included. Very happy that Clementine. I really do like Clementine. I use it on my other Linux distributions. Much like Amarok, if you're familiar with that. It's a media player, which has a lot of functionality, much more so than most. VLC media players included. SMTube, which I'm not familiar with. You can search and view videos from YouTube. Oh, nice introduction. Nice inclusion, I should say. We move further, XFBurn, of course. Into Office, we have the full LibreOffice install. As far as I can tell, we have LibreOffice Calc, Draw, Impress, Math, Writer, Orange Calendar, Global Time, PDF Shuffler, and this is a PDF Viewer. Good to have that as well. Here we have the Settings Manager, let's go into that. This looks a lot like the typical XFCE settings manager, where we have MX Sounds, which we already showed you a little bit at least. You could select options for events and whatnot, your sound manipulation there. File manager, desktop settings, which we've already seen. MX Tools, I'm going to get there in a second. Preferred applications, screensaver, window manager, Bluetooth, of course, if you have that available, network connections. There we have it. That's our typical network connections pop-up box I've seen in other Linux distros. Power manager, of course. Time settings, accessibility, alternatives configurator. Okay. Then you have Samba, of course, for shares and, of course, make you a part of a Windows network and whatnot, or to host files on a Windows network or whatever, connectivity. Sessions and startup, Windows wireless drivers. If you have that wireless NIC that does not have native Linux drivers, this goes a far way in helping you to alleviate that issue right there. Now let's go to this. This is interesting. MX Tools. MX Tools are the developers of MX Linux. This is their stab at settings. And it's pretty interesting. Live USB Maker snapshot, I believe, which will create a snapshot of a running system. Create a live ISO snapshot of your running system. Very interesting because it's a good way to back up your system. Maintenance, but it creates a live CD or a live media from it, so that you can actually boot from it. Very good to have that. Very interesting. Boot repair tool. I always wondered about boot repair tools. If you can't boot up in your system, how are you supposed to use it? But that's just me, I guess. But it's good to see it there. User manager, Flash manager. Adobe Flash most recent version, Pepper install version, and most recent version. Very nice. Okay. Menu editor, user manager. Here, AMD ATI proprietary driver installer. Good to have. Codex installer. Sound NVIDIA driver installer. Broadcom manager for Broadcom-based cards. System sounds, welcome. Check app, CBG software, Debian backports installer. Package installer. Repo manager. See, it includes, I should point out that MX Linux includes two package managers. Synaptic, which is the package manager that's well known to anybody who's used Debian or many other Linux distributions, and the MX package installer. They both amount to doing the same thing, although this one is a little bit more user-friendly. It doesn't look that so at the start, but I'll explain. Everything is categorized. For example, if I want graphics, I have these I can choose from. While the selections may not be as great as what you have in Synaptic, at least here it's a lot easier to know what you're getting, and you can always do a search as well. Okay? So here we are. We have Blender available, GIMP Basic, GIMP Full, which is already installed, Shotwell, which is already installed, I think, Office, Adobe Reader, Calibre, that's for ebook management, a lot of other things. So that's that particular manager. We also have USB Unmounter, Find Shares, Repo Manager. I just find that this is a very, very good selection of extremely useful tools. I have not found a tool in the MX Tools that I would find useless, and hats off to the developers for including these tools. This is the app notifier. It's telling me what updates are available. Okay. AppGet distribution upgrade, switch to AppGet upgrade, reload, cancel. Not as user-friendly and not really descriptive of what the differences are here with AppGet upgrade and AppGet distribution upgrade. And there's some kind of cryptic things here, cryptic for new users. So that might not be the best tool for a new user. I would pretty much place this distribution as not necessarily the best introduction to someone who's brand new to Linux, although I'm teetering on that. I'm really not too sure. Okay, here we have our task manager. They seem to appear here, and you can quit as you wish. Very interesting. So all in all, in this quick, what I've shown you here of MX Linux version 16, I'm impressed. I am impressed. It, to me, basically puts the check marks in all the right boxes. Very good performance. Has a, I would say, a very well thought out and list of applications. You can be productive immediately. It has a lot of setup tools, GUI setup tools for those who don't want to get their hands dirty. And these days, less and less with Linux, do you need to get your hands dirty. I haven't shown the installation, but the installation is extremely straightforward, much like most Linux distributions these days. So I would give MX Linux version 16 2 thumbs up. I could see it as a daily driver, in particular if you have an older piece of hardware. I will be putting together a machine. I have an older i3, much older i3, and I could make a little ITX box out of it, and I might actually put this on it. It's very, very complete, very feature complete, and I like it a lot. As it's based on Debian's base, Debian stable, you definitely are going to get a desktop that you can count on. So 2 thumbs up for MX Linux 16. If you like what you see, leave comments. I would ask that you tell more people about the site. I've been away for a minute, but I'm back now, most definitely. Stoked and ready to get started on a few of interesting videos. So that's my first video for 2017, MX Linux version 16. 2 thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and take care.